Oh my god, it's cold and wet. And this is a day where I'm questioning, why the bloody hell am I doing this? Anyway, welcome to another Walkie Talkie. And if I freeze to death whilst doing this, yeah. Anyway, I found me riding gloves in the back of my car. My car very graciously allowed me to access the boot or the trunk for any American viewers out there, which was very kind of it. So operating the camera's okay, but these things aren't offering much in the way of thermal protection. Can't have it both ways, I guess. But I need thermal protection, but I also need to be able to operate the camera. So there you go. Oh, I hope you're all doing well. Got my umbrella with me because it's drizzly a little bit at the moment, but it's not too bad. So we'll see. So today's subject, well, it's probably just going to be a general chat today. Nothing too specific. Although I do want to touch upon a situation in the sort of retro gaming space, which is Commodore versus Commodore. Apparently one company called Commodore is suing another company. We'll see. Seems a bit ridiculous to me. This is like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, except this Titanic has already sunk. Now, I don't get the excitement here, but it seems to be they're fighting over who gets to put the official Commodore logo and name on products. I think there was I've not really, it's only stuff I've picked up off social media, but it appears that a consortium has bought the Commodore name and they're going at this is like, we've officially resurrected Commodore, the Commodore from the 80s and early 90s, the Commodore of the C64, VIC-20 and the Amiga. Although Commodore didn't invent the Amiga, they bought the Amiga technology, which was a great decision for them because it's a superb piece of kit, but they didn't invent it themselves. So you have to forgive me being a snuffleupagus this morning, but my nose is running because it's so bloody cold. Anyhow, it's a Commodore, and then there's a company in Italy which claims to have the rights to the name of Commodore. It's all really confusing for a sort of a lay person, and the thing that confuses me in addition is, who gives a crap these days? Commodore died. in the early 90s. And then, so I remember it, a company called Escom bought it, and then they went tits up, and that was it. Commodore is dead. It's been dead for over 20 years. Like 30 years now, actually. So this is all fighting over who gets to put the name on a bit of retro stuff. But there's already been out there. C64 Mini and the C64 full size is already out, and has been out for a number of years. You're fighting over nothing. But anyway, I'll get into that and other stuff a little bit more when I get into the park. So I'll see you then. Alright, oh, camera went a bit wobbly then. So, as I was saying, this sort of, I think one company is suing the other over the rights to use the Commodore. I don't know if it's the name and brand, or whether it's just the brand, or whether it's just the name. Either way, it doesn't really matter. For me, it's ridiculous. There's absolutely no reason at all to be doing this. And there are those that say, yeah, but, it's about money. Yeah, of course it is. But it's a dead brand. What are the grandiose plans of these people? It's dead. Commodore is synonymous with old stuff, and that's it. How much can you flog that to death? You can't keep flogging it to death. It's over. You've released the C64 Mini. You've released the full-size C64. You've got this C64 Ultimate coming out, which again is supposed to be a real Commodore 64. But from what I've heard and from what I've seen, it isn't. Because it does things that a Commodore 64 from the 1980s can't do. Well, in that case, it's not a C64, or not an original C64. It might, what's going to be the difference between that and the one that was the full-size one? Not much. It's going to have different stuff inside of it. It's going to do different stuff. And like I say, what's the point? It's already out there. And let's be honest, let's put our big boy pants on. People have been emulating Commodore 64 stuff for years now. I mean, it's come and gone in various bits of licensed hardware, usually with the same carousel of games. It's always the same games, chiefly around Thalamus and Hewson games. those are the games that they're actually able to get the license easily enough for. You never see any ocean games. You know, you don't see any of the ocean games, the great ones, the licensed games that they did. You never see Platoon, The Untouchables, RoboCop, because of licenses. The absolute awesome stuff, awesome licensed games that came out, you never see. If you want to play them, you have to do your bit of emulation. You know, of course, assuming you still own the original cassette or disc or cartridge for legal purposes. You rarely see licensed arcade stuff on there either. Your Arkanoids, your Outruns, various iterations thereof. You never see them. Like I say, it's just the same carousel. The one thing I will say about this C64 Black Edition, they're actually releasing that with games that have been made in a more recent age for it. And that's the purpose of that one. But again, if you've already got the C64 Mini, I'm pretty sure you can just get them games anyway for it. There's nothing there. So why do it? What's this kerfuffle about? It's not even rearranging deck chairs or fighting over seats on the Titanic. You're talking of something that's been lay at the bottom of the gaming ocean for over 30 years. A company. And I think they believe that there is a lot of money to be made in the retro market. And they could well be right. We're certainly, given the decrease in modern gaming quality and the advent of sort of retro streamers on places like Twitch, yeah, there probably is an uptick. But it won't last. I mean, there's been retro booms before. There was a big boom about a few years back now. People were buying up like loads of the original hardware and stuff on eBay. I mean, I bought some stuff off there myself. So I thought the original hardware, like the Super Nintendo and, you know, N64, Mega Drive. My better half bought me a TurboGrafx 16, which is great. What was great about having that is I never owned one. I never played the games. And there's some belting games. That was a great console. It's a brilliant little console. It's a shame it never took off to a much greater extent than what it should have done. It's because it didn't have the backing of Sega or Nintendo, who were the bigwigs at the time. So there's your problem. So it was always going to be, it just strikes me as being weird. They're sort of flogging this dead horse with this. And it's like, as far as I'm concerned, they're just trying to, like, make themselves, put themselves in the public eye for nothing. You know, they're trying to put them, just like, here's an opportunity for me to get some attention. So they do. Like I say, there's nothing there to fight over. Temporary excitement that'll die down quickly. And then it'll all go quiet. Look at you look at the Spectrum Next, for example. That's a really good example of that. That's not even available generally. You have to get it through, I think it's Kickstarter or GoFundMe, something like that. And it's a great idea. It's a great piece of kit. But you'll never be able to go into a shop and buy one. So it's a limited appeal. And it's why you get a limited stuff about it on the internet, outside of the sort of fan groups. So you get these fan groups, they support it, they support the Next, great. There's no mass market for it. And it's the same with Commodore. There's no mass market. You're not making a huge amount of money. The only way people make money with these things now is by shipping licenses around. It's literally buying licenses. License exchange. Somebody buys a license, somebody else wants it, they buy it. So the person who bought it originally will sell that license at a profit. But you've never seen the game. Now, outside of emulation, look how many game licenses have come and gone. There was God knows how many thousands and thousands of games on the C64. And like I said earlier, when you buy these retro devices, it's always the same games on the carousel. It's always the same ones for you to choose from. And when you have that, it makes you wonder what has happened to all of those licenses that were bought for those games in the past. What's been done with them? There's absolutely no. There's no system or no sort of legal way to obtain them without going and buying the old game off of eBay. And the people that own the license for that game, they don't get a penny from it. So it is literally, it's like buying fine wine. You never drink it. People collect it. They wait for the price to be right, and then they sell it. That was a trade I used to be in in my first job back in the early 90s when I worked for a fine wine merchant. That's what they did. They had a warehouse full of wine, some of which, I'm not kidding you, thousands and thousands of pounds for just one bottle, and they'd own 100 cases of 12 bottles. Yeah, we had some bloody big insurance policy there, I can tell you. Really big insurance. We had wines that we used at the Yalta conference during the Second World War. The Massandra collection, like Burgundy wines that were just absolutely astronomical in price. You won't believe it. I helped Christie's auctions and Sotheby's auctions, and they actually would send me a case of wine worth hundreds and hundreds of pounds in thanks. You know, didn't drink it. Sold it to the company I was working for. That's how it works, and it's, to my mind, I look at it and think, yeah, this is kind of similar with these video game licenses. They just get shopped around. It's like musical chairs. The weird thing is, of course, you crack open a case of wine and drink it, and the value goes and you end up with nothing. But with licenses, it's almost like if they put it out there and the scarcity of that game is essentially erased, and therefore the value of the license changes. So whereas there is a difference, there's also a similarity. And that's all you're getting. That is all you're getting. But if you're a retro gamer, you get nothing. I look at this Atari 50 collection. Where are the Activision games for the 2600? Activision games for that were amongst the best for the machine. No, because Activision have the license, which ultimately means Microsoft now have the license. And they're just sat on it. I've wanted to play River Raid. It's one of my, I've got it on the C64, or had it, well yeah, I've still got the thing for the C64, but I've always wanted to play the 2600 version, legitimately. You can't, because you don't get it in any of the collections. Why is no one negotiating to get the Activision games onto the 2600? Why? When they're amongst the best games for that system, why? It's a ginormous oversight on the part of, on the part of Activision, on the part of Atari, rather. It's not much of an oversight on Activision's part because they probably don't care. But you know what I mean? It's like there's a huge retro library out there that's untouched. But people are farting about over who gets to put the chicken head symbol for Commodore on what piece of plastic that's ultimately tat. And it's just daft because it's already out there, and it's been out there for years, legitimately. No one cares, by the way. I mean, something that you can tell it's marketing people behind all of this, because no one gives a crap about the logo that's on a computer. No one. No one cares. They just want to play the games. It's that simple. They just want to play the games. They've got no care whatsoever about what symbol is on the piece of plastic you're not even looking at when you're playing the game. They don't even care if it has the name Commodore on it, because the only time you would care about them things is if you were buying the actual vintage hardware and you wanted to make sure you were getting something that was legit. That would be the only time that would matter. So, just seems like a pointless endeavour to me. The only people that are going to profit are going to be lawyers. On the up-to-date, modern-day gaming front, what the bloody hell, speaking of Activision, have they done with Call of Duty? What the hell is this new Black Ops game? I saw a bit of footage from it. It looks like Left 4 Dead or Back 4 Blood. I saw is it a boss battle? There's some giant guy. What is it? Attack on Titan or something? What the hell is it? This used to be like a first-person shooter. It started out in the Second World War. Had a bit of Vietnam. Had a bit of, like, you know, they did Infinite Warfare, which was like a futuristic one. What the hell is this? Is this just a zombies game or something? It looks absolutely ridiculous. So that's another franchise that's probably going to get ruined. The feedback I'm seeing in general is very negative. I've not seen anybody say anything positive about it. The majority of people just seem to be saying, what the hell is this crap? I don't want to be a bit conspiratorial, but is this the first Call of Duty game that's been in development since Microsoft have owned it? It'd be very interesting to see if it is, because it's got their clueless. Stuff written all over it. I was just blown away. I mean, Black Ops was supposed to be a bit like, you know, 60s, 70s, 80s. You know, black operatives, off the scale, off the record, Cold War stuff. That's what I thought that series was. I mean, I'll admit I've not played it for quite some time, but holy crap! And I know other Call of Duty games have come out since Microsoft have owned Activision, but they all have already been in development. They have multiple teams making these games, even though it comes out annually. They have different development companies making this game, so that's why they're able to do it annually. But oh, bloody hell. I don't know if anybody who watches my videos has got it or played it. I mean, if so, let me know in the comments section what it's like, but it looks awful. It does not look like a Call of Duty game. It doesn't look like that whatsoever. What a shame. Like I say, I mean, I've not played it myself for a number of years, but you know, I know of its general popularity. I got a bit fed up of the fact that it wanted to take up most of my hard drive space. And so I would play the single player, then only play a little bit of the bots offline, and then I'd uninstall it because I wanted to play something else and I needed the hard drive space. So that was one of the main reasons I've not played it. And it's a bit samey, but maybe that's why they've changed it. Maybe it's because people were saying it's the same shit. But you got to change it for something that's good. You can't just change it for something that's absolutely rubbish. That doesn't work. Anyway, if any of you played it and you see this video, let me know what you think. What you think of it. I'm not going to buy it, you know, for the reasons I've already mentioned why I haven't been buying them anyway, but I'm just curious. Sometimes all you see is the negative stuff and you never see the positive stuff because of algorithms and what have you. So yeah, I'm curious about that, what the script is. Oh. I'm just trying to think of what else. Can't really think of much else, to be honest. I think we're sort of entering into this weird period, aren't we, in gaming? On the one hand, we should be really entering into the sort of advanced stages of this generation of consoles, but we haven't really got going, have we? As I've said before, so it's kind of a weird limbo we're in. I don't know. I really don't know. You know, if you guys have anything you want me to talk about gaming wise that you think I can have an opinion, you know, think I can, might know anything of, if you're going to want me to talk about JRPGs, forget about it. Or anything like that, forget about it, because I haven't got a clue. But yeah, just pop a question in the comments. I'll see what I can come up with. I watched a really interesting interview with Dan Houser. I'm trying to remember the guy's name now, but it was a fascinating interview. Dan Houser, for those of you that don't know, is one of the co-founders of Rockstar Games, and he was a writer and producer of the GTA, Red Dead, those games. He left the company in 2020 to form his own company, which are going to do like multimedia, like I think graphic novels, animation and video games. Guy's very intelligent. You know, it's fascinating. He's talking about his influences and the writing process that he had and the sort of, thought processes with regards to developing games, philosophy on developing games, and so on and so forth. And, in general, Rockstar maintain this incredible high quality. The games might take forever to come out, but invariably they are of an exceptionally high quality when they come out, that sort of leaves a lot of other developers floundering, really. They've kind of earned the right to take an eternity to make games, although I still don't necessarily agree with it. But their philosophy, I think, is to try to keep everything tight. His new company, who's saying it's a small team, keeping things tight. I think there's a method in that, in terms of maintaining quality when you're maintaining focus and direction. I think it's easy to manage a small team than a huge amount of people, where spending time managing that team can become an issue in of itself, which can detract away from the development of the actual game itself. I looked into it a bit more about the people that were let go at Rockstar. Was it the 30 or so people that were let go? And it was to do with, well, it depends on what you read and how you read it and who's writing it. Some people say it's to do with an attempt to unionise. Others, it was to do with leaking company information. And I wondered if that all dials into what happened a few years ago now, when details of GTA 6 leaked, some footage, and I wonder if they got to the bottom of that, and it was found to be these people. If that's the case, then yeah. The case of unionisation, I think, well, depends what your contract says when you signed. I'm not against the idea of unions, but if you sign a contract that expressly forbids that, and you go ahead and do it, well, you're going to get booted. There's a reason why some companies, particularly in entertainment, don't like unions, because a lot of the time these start out as passion projects from the people who are creating the game. And when you unionise, I'm just getting ahead of myself a bit there, that quite often can involve working above and beyond what would be deemed to be sort of normal hours. The thing with the creative process, and anybody who's sort of done that, one of the things they'll tell you, once you're on a roll, and I know because my better half, she's a creator, and she will stay up to all hours once she's on a roll. She'll work ridiculously long hours creating something, because you get into that zone and things are just clicking into place. It's not science. You're not sat in an office crunching numbers and planning a day, and it's like, oh, I'll get to this. You can start something in a creative process and it just isn't working. You can be banging your head on the wall for hours. You know, and you could have been working on it for 10, 12 hours. It's not working. Get to hour 14 and it clicks. And then once it's clicked and you're on that roll, you know, all of them hours that would have been spent creating where you weren't able to, that's where you start again. When you're part of a team and it's like you're passing stuff down the line and there's a bottleneck somewhere because somebody's struggling with something, you know, it's the same principle but just on a much larger scale. And I can see why it would be problematic in terms of working what people might describe as being sociable hours or having fixed hours. What do you do in that situation? You can't just stop. So it's a difficult one. I mean, at the same time, you know, you shouldn't be taking advantage of people either. People do have lives. So it's a real tough one, isn't it? I wouldn't know really what the right answer is with all of that. But, yeah, it's definitely tough. I think what you'd have to consider always is perhaps reviewing, are you working in an efficient way? Have you got the job flow right? Have you got the workflow right? But even then, like I say, it's art. It's not science. So, you know. I wouldn't want to try and wrangle a team of devs together. I think it's a really tough job, but it seems to be synonymous with the games industry and with the movie industry. You know, if you go back and watch anything to do with the making of, say, the original Terminator, I mean, they were shooting when and where they could. You know, they weren't working regular hours. Infamously, if you watch the making of Aliens, where Jim Cameron came up against unions over here, and he was going nuts. You know, there's the infamous story of, like, he'd set up a shot, fogged up the set for the atmosphere, and he's just about to shoot and the door opens and the tea lady comes in and everyone downs tools and starts eating sandwiches. He was just about to shoot. If you think about all the prep work that had gone into making that shot, but them's were the rules. The crew were legally entitled to a break. I think Jim Cameron wanted to, you know, break a few heads. He's trying to make a movie, come in on time and under budget. At that time, that's what his second major directorial film. He'd done The Terminator, and he'd stepped in and finished up work on Piranha 2, but this was Aliens. This is a sequel to Alien. This is big. And if he messes up, goes over budget to a huge degree, comes in, you know, breaks the schedule, back in them days, he's going on a blacklist. You know, he doesn't want that. You know, he had ideas about things he wanted to make, and this was a way of building a reputation to be able to do it, and I think it's safe to say he succeeded. You know, I think unions are important to protect workers' rights, But I think there are some industries, particularly the creative one, the arts and media, where they just don't dovetail. They just don't dovetail at all. You know, it's not a production line in the sense of working in the automotive industry. I mean, unions really created a big problem for the automotive industry as well, but I think, like I say, in the creative space, they can be very, very difficult to make work. And that's not me being anti-union, I'm just saying how it is, and it's why a lot of companies don't want it, because they know that the nature of the beast is what it is. And when costs start to spiral, you know, companies go under. When companies go under, you don't have a job. If you don't have a job, you're not in a union anyway, because you've got no work. And that's the thing now. And I say this isn't being anti-union, it's just, I'm just demonstrating the challenges of how unions and companies can end up butting heads, especially in the creative space. You know, I think workers should be looked after. I think they should have rights. I think they should be treated as human beings and not, you know, serfs or, you know, servants. We see, you know, there's a lot of horror stories, but you have to get a balance. And sometimes things go out of balance, and that's when everything starts to fall apart. So, you know, and there are some industries where unions absolutely work, and there are others where I think it just doesn't. And I think in the, like I say, in the creative space, in the arts, I think it's very difficult to get it to work. It's not impossible, but it's difficult. You've seen a lot of companies folding because of spiraling costs. So, you know. But anyway, I've been going for quite a bit today, so I'm going to call it there. Thank you for watching, and I will see you tomorrow for another one.